Today on the podcast, we have energy coach Nicole Karon. Welcome to the All About Pregnancy and Birth podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Calloway Rankins, a board-certified OBGYN physician, certified integrative health coach, and creator of the Birth Preparation Course, an online childbirth education class that will leave you feeling knowledgeable, prepared, confident, and empowered going into your birth. Quick note, this podcast is for educational purposes only, and it's not a substitute for medical advice. See the full disclaimer at ncrcoaching.com/disclaimer. Hello, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Thank you for being here with me today. This episode is a little different. We are taking a dip into what I call the woo-woo space. Today I have on the podcast Nicole Karon. She is an energy coach, healer, life coach, and psychic medium who helps mothers clean out their energy system so they feel better and, most importantly, can be the best mother that they can be. Nicole believes that following the heart is a requirement for motherhood and life. She also believes that using energetic principles in parenting and self-development, although it's considered kind of cutting edge, is actually something that's been around for a while. She runs a successful program, The Clearing Journey, where she helps mamas make major shifts in their lives to discover or rediscover who they truly are and realize their potential. She lives in sunny Tampa, Florida with her husband and her little boy. Now, I'm actually pretty deep, I feel like, into the woo-woo space. I am a regular meditator. I do yoga. I consider yoga as part of my woo-woo because it helps to calm my mind. And I also read lots of personal development books. The most recent book that I read was The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein, which I really enjoyed. The first time I picked it up a couple years ago, I couldn't quite get into it, but this time I breezed right through it and I enjoyed it. And I've read lots of other books over the years. Now, we don't always incorporate these types of concepts into what we do in medicine, but it's actually important for your pregnancy and birth. These sort of mental health, energy, things you can't quite put your finger on, but you know that are there and they're important. I consider this stuff so important for your birth that it is actually the very first lesson in my online childbirth education class, the Birth Preparation Course. The first lesson is on mindset, because establishing the right mindset, that right foundation, is really crucial to help you have a great experience giving birth. So in that very first lesson, I talk about mindset, I talk about meditation, I talk about visualization and how that's an important piece of your birth. So keeping those things in mind and how important they are, that's why I invited Nicole onto the podcast today. And we talk about what Nicole does as an energy coach. We talk about how her work fits into traditional models of mental health care, like seeing a psychiatrist or taking medications or a counselor. We talk about how mothers change energetically during their pregnancy and what that means. We talk about how to shield yourself from a negative energy during your pregnancy and a few more things that I think you're going to find really interesting. So definitely listen to this episode. Now, to go along with this episode, I am offering you a free meditation jumpstart guide. I think meditation is so important for your health and your well-being. So I believe everybody should be meditating. It doesn't have to be a lot. So I have this 2-page guide just to help you get started with meditation. If you don't already meditate, you can go to ncrcoaching.com/meditate, and I will put that link in the show notes. Pop in your email address and I will send you that 2-page guide to get you started with meditation. Now, before we get into the episode, let me give a quick shout out to Gentry421. She left me a review on iTunes, and that's JENTRI421. And it says, "This is a great podcast. The information presented is super helpful and easy to understand. It's good info from a doctor who seems very relatable and real. I highly recommend." Thank you so much for that really kind review. I truly appreciate it. And I think today's episode is also going to be relatable and real. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the episode today with Nicole Karon. Hey, Nicole, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We are dipping into a new territory today for me, for sure, and I appreciate having you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to talk with you.
Yeah, so why don't we start off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and your
Mhm.
family?
Sure. So, by title, I say that I am an energy healer, coach, and psychic medium. And I also have training in life coaching as well. So, I'm pretty well rounded, but I use all of my tools when I'm working with my moms. And so, for thinking, well, what is my work? What I have is a system that helps moms feel transformed and healed. And the outcome for the work is that they feel so deeply, truly confident in themselves, not like fake confidence, but like the real confidence that just kind of comes from within. And then it also makes them really comfortable and confident in their mothering abilities. So it's a real honor to work with women and help them dig out the stuff in their energy systems that don't serve them and really impact their day-to-day lives. And something else, my family and we live here in Tampa, Florida, where it's beautiful and sunny. I'm so fortunate to have that sunshine year round. And I love the fact that my work, I do my work outside. We can talk more about my actual process and stuff, but I have the luxury of being able to go outside in the warm sunshine and do the energetic protocol year round here. So it's a perfect place and a perfect gift to have.
Yeah, well, that is really nice, really nice. So, when you work with mothers to help, well, I guess let me ask this: what do you mean by energy system? Like, I know I use that term energy all the time. I use it to say like the energy of the labor room, the energy
Mhm.
of your birth, and I can't say that I've ever quite defined it. Maybe people also, I don't know, maybe I mean it in the same way as kind of like the vibe or what you feel in the room. What do
Mhm.
you mean when you say energy systems?
So our energy system, so what you're talking about is totally right. It's a vibe, right? Like that's kind of how we sense the energy. And some people sense energy just from a feeling. And some people get energy, they feel energy or they can hear it or they can actually see it with what, we might call like our third eye, but like sometimes for example, I might see, like I've been in my child's pediatrician's office,
Uh-huh.
and I was overwhelmed by sparkles in the room. There were angels everywhere, and it was so distracting for me that I couldn't even hold conversation with this dear woman. I felt so silly, but I was like, oh, talk about energy in a room. For me, what energy is, we're containers, and in our entire lives we have built up memories and experiences and things that we've been taught, and we hold them, and sometimes they serve us really well, and sometimes those things actually hinder us from moving forward or moving in a new direction.
Mm,
Our energy can also be impacted not only by the experiences of the now and our 30, 40 some years on this planet, but I also believe from our soul's previous experiences, where else it's been, or what other times it's been around. It carries those memories with them. And then also, we are so fortunate that not only do we get our parents' sweet smile and beautiful eyes, but we unfortunately get some of their energetic stuff too.
mm.
So when we're living in the world right now, we are living in a container that's full of ideas and beliefs and trauma and joy, and all of this stuff is in the quote container of our body, our energy system. And the problem really is when we get so backed up, it gets so stuffed that we can't live life in a way that feels happy anymore. We feel stuck. We don't know what to do. We feel disconnected. And so those are just some of the signs that our energy system, that container, is backed up. There's no flow going on. So where I come in is I help get that flow moving again. And that's when those good feelings of connection and remembering who you are and the things that you value, that's when that all comes into play, because we have just created a beautiful pathway for you to experience energy in the way that's useful to you now. We're no longer carrying all that baggage from years past that colors our experiences we have now.
Okay, got it. That makes a lot of sense. So, what type of training have you had to do this type of work?
So there's both book stuff and life experience. I'm a mix of both. Life experience started over 20 years ago. I've always been a seeker of finding out like answers to the big answers for life's questions at like the age of 13. Like what
Mm-hmm.
child is like that? That was me. And so I had always been on this quest of like trying to understand things. And then, have always just been very much a self-studier and allowed my interest to take me into learning about things like quantum physics and string theory. And, then getting formal studies with a program called Matrix Energetics, organ regeneration, and then, dabbling in other modalities of energy work, and then ultimately honing in my own intuitive sense. And by living in that intuition, I've been able to bring out my own processes that work for me and also now for the moms that I serve. So I'm a real mix, and I will never stop learning. And again, that's both through book work and through just living, experiencing. Doesn't work, let's try something else. So
Right,
always have that
right.
hunger for education, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So let's get this out of the way because I know people are going to want to know, how does what you do, and I know I want to know too, how does what you do fit with more traditional models of the field of what we would say is mental health? So therapists and psychiatrists and medications.
So I think that I would compare this as you are very much in the driver's seat. So when we are working on our energy, we are remembering bits and pieces of who we are, and we are cultivating this deeper sense of knowing oneself. And I think that when you are in that spot of living life that way, you become really clear to what things do you need to help you heal. And sometimes, sure, it might be reaching for a specific crystal, but sometimes that might be the matter of, I really need to talk with a therapist about XYZ. It's really getting the clarity to know which tool that is needed to help you move forward. So it's not a replacement. It really is this way of getting clear so you can see all of the options on the table. You can sense which option is best for you at any given point. It can help you figure out maybe which professionals that you want to pursue, having them with a treatment plan. So it really is very useful in navigating the other aspects of what's available to us. And like I said, I would think of it more of like we're in the driver's seat, and then when we couple up with other mental health professionals, that they're in the car with us, and then we can make really great guided decisions that are really in our best interest and highest good.
Okay, so you're not saying, you don't need a therapist if you work with me, or you should not go see a psychiatrist, you shouldn't take medications. You're not saying any of those things. It's more of working together based on what is most important and relevant for that woman.
That's right. Yeah, and it's all unique. Like that's what I believe so firmly, is that there is no one specific plan for wholeness or wellness. And by clearing out our energy and getting so clear in our heart about what we need, we can get the exact help from the exact people that we know we need to get it from. So it really helps us customize the healing path, healing, whether it's a preventative way or healing from, maybe much more in a reactive way.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Let's be real. Pregnancy has you thinking about everything from what you eat to where you sleep. And if better sleep and a better planet are both on your list, let me put you on to Avocado Green Mattress. This Earth Month, I'm thinking about how small choices can have a huge impact. That's why I love Avocado. Their certified organic mattresses are made with non-toxic materials, built to last, and crafted in their own zero waste facility. Because quality is sustainability. The longer a mattress lasts, the less ends up in a landfill. And listen, they're not just about eco-friendly talk, they back it up. As a climate neutral certified brand and 1% for the Planet member, every Avocado mattress supports a healthier you and a healthier earth. So if you're ready for luxurious sleep that aligns with your values, head to avocadomattress.com today and save up to 10% on certified organic mattresses. Dream of better for you and the planet. Okay, so let's talk about how energy relates to pregnancy. You say that mothers change energetically throughout their pregnancy and birth and through the postpartum period. I kind of have a sense for what that means. I mean, it's certainly a transformative process. I often describe it spiritually, even in a way. So what do you mean when you say that mothers change energetically during that process?
So I would say that probably what you're thinking about, the spiritual changes that happen, they're probably what I would call energetic. So it might just be a linguistic thing here.
Okay.
But, it's like when we're going through pregnancy, we have to adapt to this whole different child that has come in, right? Like our energy literally accommodates this new being that we have accepted. And so we can't expect that we're going to be the same. And, we might think about some of those emotional changes that happen. And yes, they are certainly part of the picture. But energetically, it's like there is this silent signature that has gone on between the two of you, like a contract, and you are acclimating to rising to that role. And, you may feel at times, a woman may feel at times during her pregnancy that her child, she feels really close. And then there may be times where she doesn't. And that's energetic changes, right? And that specifically is because the soul of a baby comes in and out. They don't stay, from my experience, they do not stay once they come in. They are in and out. They are time is very different for us where we are and where they are. So if you tend to feel those like, oh, I am feeling so close and whole, it could be that your baby's spirit is with you. And then there's other times you're like, I'm not feeling it so much. That's very natural and normal. So, but when we go through birth, that is such a humongous energetic change. Just that the birthing experience in and of itself, you may have heard of women like talking about how you feel like you've left, right? Like there's this gap in time. And I believe it's because we are getting the souls, like we have left our bodies to the spiritual plane and we are coming back. So I absolutely believe in doing that, changing shape, that has effects on us. It's not like every day we have the opportunity to do that. Those are like once in a lifetime, maybe 5 times in a lifetime, depending on how many babies we have.
Right.
But those are certainly not the normal everyday experiences. And so when we come back, we are absolutely energetically changed. And if we go one step further through the postpartum, like that's all about acclimation, right? And so we are getting used to the new period of being this new person who is so much more full and whole and expanded. And that's part of what I believe is missing in the conversation when people talk about those postpartum days, that we have expanded energetically and spiritually so much that you may not even feel like you recognize yourself some days. And I think that some of that mislabeling is to the detriment of moms. And I think that we need support in that spiritual and energetic way. Because another thing I've seen is women, after that baby comes or even during pregnancy, psychic gifts sometimes, that mother's intuition, it will knock them over. And again, that's an energetic change. That is the fact that their soul has completed an evolution and is going further. And nobody's telling them that they're not crazy. Like,
right.
It just kind of goes hush hush. It's one of those things that like women don't talk about. So I think there are many, many changes that we go through that aren't labeled properly. And then there's some things I think are mislabeled, but ultimately the energetic changes we go through, we really need to be tending to the energy of them. And that is my hope through my work, is that I can illuminate and bring light to those things so women feel so much more at peace and they feel comfortable when they start to go through these changes and they know what to do or what not to do. Because some of the stuff with energy work, it's a matter of just observing and allowing yourself, because sometimes fighting something, like right in birth, when we're fighting what's coming and we're fighting those pressure waves and those contractions, that only makes it worse. We need to give in and surrender. And so there's a lot of mirroring that happens on the spiritual plane of that stuff too.
That's a really interesting concept. What you just said, that's one of the things that I say, especially from women who are giving birth without medication, is that you have to surrender to the process. And that is most certainly something that you have to do within your life, within being a mother. Fighting all of that is not helpful, and it just makes things more difficult. So I feel like you're saying things that, you hear people say things like, oh, you're an energy coach or energy healer. And that's, what people call the woo-woo space. And I inhabit the woo-woo space a bit. I mean, I'm a meditator. I try to tune in to my intuition, but honestly, I think physicians tune into the space more than we think and more than we acknowledge. We're just not as comfortable talking about it, or we talk about it in different ways. Like I know I have a colleague who says, whenever a woman says that she doesn't feel right about her pregnancy, actually I have lots of colleagues who say this, that gets them to perk up. It's like they're,
Mm-hmm.
in tune to this energy, if you want to call it, that something's not quite right. And it makes them sort of stand up on their ears. So I think we
Mm-hmm.
have that sense that we actually are tuning in to women's energies. Maybe we're talking about it in different ways, but this is something that's there and that we need to be embrace and feel comfortable with. And I also think it's interesting how you said you feel like babies bounce in and out of their bodies, so to speak. Their
Yeah.
souls do.
Yeah.
One of the things that I say when a baby comes out and they aren't quite breathing right away, one of the things that I instinctively say in my mind is, come on over to your body.
Oh,
So it's like, I think, you left you're still on the other side. I need you to come on over and inhabit your body so your parents can meet you, is
yeah.
what I'm saying. So
Yeah, it's a change for them too. Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, for sure. So I guess I'm saying all this to say that this sort of discussion isn't as foreign or out there as we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are ways that you think that women can communicate with their babies during pregnancy? I have a good friend who, she's a high risk doctor. She was actually on the podcast a few episodes back, and she talked about how she tells her patients that this is one of the times that you will be really like the closest with your baby, pregnancy than ever, with the human being inside of you. So
Mm-hmm.
what are ways that you think that women can really communicate with their babies during pregnancy?
I think that the big takeaway, if anything is heard, is that the communication is a two-way road. That we often think of talking to our baby. More often than not, people don't think about, what if my baby was talking back to me?
Right.
And I think that is where, if we just open up just quietly, like if you just want to talk with your baby, you can do it aloud through your mouth or just silently as if you would, if you were praying. You just say what's on your heart. You can be really honest, and you don't have to think of your baby as an infant who doesn't quite have the cognitive skills and abilities yet. You can think of them as a soul you're just honestly communicating with, and just let it be really authentic and just say what you want to say, and then allow yourself to pause and be quiet, and then see what comes back. You make it images, you make it a song, you make it a memory, you make it something. It sounds like you're getting conversation, quote, like in your head, like as if from the communication coming from like, quote, nowhere, right? Like, well, geez, how did I come up with that? Oh, I'm making it up. No, 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 no. Someone was talking to you. And there's a lot of trust. So I absolutely recommend just having the conversation and seeing what comes back. Another way to do that is through the heart. And I believe that when we get into our heart, there's like a connection line to our baby's heart, and we can meet in the middle too. And so if you are able to drop down into your heart, are you familiar with that in meditative for that phrase?
And no, tell me what you mean,
No.
or tell us
Okay.
what you mean.
Yeah. So dropping into your heart space is like this softening. It's so funny because when we're talking about softening, of course, it seems so baby centric and the woman body, but you just imagine, even just pure imagination. If you were in an elevator and you went down from your brain, down through your head cavity, down your neck, into your chest, and then suddenly the doors opened and it was your heart. Like, you just play imagination with me and you do that can drop you into your heart space. And it's a very, very information heavy place. And that's where you can access everything you need to know. And that's so important. So if you are in doubt and you want to talk to your baby, just imagine taking that little elevator ride to your heart space, go in there. It might be a forest. It might be a room. There's no one way it could look. Go in, see if you can kind of sense, like, is my baby here? How do I connect with my baby? Open-ended questions are so perfect because the answer you get is the answer you need. Follow those little breadcrumbs and it'll take you to your baby. So those are just two easy ways. And it doesn't have to be difficult. Like, you don't need to meditate for an hour before you can make that connection or dial like 10, 10, 3, 2, 1, nothing complicated. Just allow yourself to be in that conversation and let it come back to you.
Okay. All right. So on the flip side, well, actually that kind of brought me another question. We talk about connecting through the heart. What about, we also talk about connecting through the gut. Is that different or similar, or like, your gut instinct kind of thing?
It's a Okay, so when we talk about like you can feel it in your gut, that often is just referring to the fact that you are a person who receives energy in your body physically. And it's a very common phrase we all use, but that's kind of the actual meaning behind it. Like you feel it in your gut, you have that feeling, that knowing essentially. Sometimes you just know what you know, and there's no reason or rationale for it. But it's really interesting that they say that, that the gut and the brain are actually connected,
They
and
very much
science,
so are. Yes.
yep, and spirituality are finally meeting on that. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really interesting when we say that, because it's like, so something in your brain is essentially activated, and then you need to figure out, okay, is that truth, or is that something that, like, is that ego coming in? So that's why I think it's important when we talk about the heart, so that you could take like a gut hit you get, like, something in your gut, take it to your heart. Is this what I need to know? Is this the information I need to act on?
Gotcha. So the
Mhm.
heart is kind of like I don't want to say reality check, or just like a, not even a checks and balances. Let me see. What am I trying to say here? The heart is just a way kind of to follow up what you feel in your gut, so to speak.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So, what are things that we can do to shield ourselves and our babies, or once they're out, children, from negative energy?
Yeah, this is a big one. And we all need to do this because, especially when we are pregnant, we can trigger people so much, right? Like they can remember their own instances of trauma and just start like laying it on us as a pregnant woman that you didn't ask for it, right? And that's not fair. So it's really important that to do this, you can either set an umbrella intention, kind of like an umbrella insurance policy. Ask your angels or your guides or God or love, whatever you use, ask them just to simply protect you. Another thing you can do is use visuals. So when I was pregnant, I always envisioned myself in a wrought iron cage, and it was like a fence in front of me, like nothing was getting through to this baby, so you can use
Mm.
those kind of things that feel really natural. So you may not have a fence, you might have like some wooden doors, I don't know, whatever works for you, but simple intention will go so far. And it's even the practical advice of, if you know a situation is going to be a little hot when you go in, if you can avoid it, try to avoid it, because that negative energy for you and your baby, whether they're in your body or out of your body, that's just not good stuff. And
Right.
these babies that are coming are really, really very sensitive energetically. So we need to be like extra protective of them and be extremely mindful. And but a good umbrella policy will get you pretty far. You just want to go to the basics.
Okay. So just ask God or your angels or whatever you believe. Just ask for protection, first off, from negative energy. And that to me is kind of like maybe prayer, if
Yeah.
if people would call it that. And then that visualization piece, that's actually something that I talk about for birth, in terms
Mhm.
of, I have a online childbirth education class, and visualization and visualizing how your birth will go is something that I talk about. Visualization is something that elite athletes use, high performance people use. So, really, it's just a different way of visualizing, blocking that negative energy. So, you're better able to do that. Is that fair to say?
That is so right. And energy responds to imagery, and that's why it's highly effective. That's exactly right.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Mhm.
Now, another thing you talk about is being mindful of the energy in our homes. And this is important. I feel like your home is a place that, it surrounds you, it helps set the tone. You want it to be a place that rises up to greet you. I think that's something that Oprah Winfrey said about her home. Her home rises up to greet her as she comes in and makes her feel welcome. So, what are things that we can do to make the energy in our homes an energetically nurturing space?
The very first thing is just be extremely mindful of what spaces feel really great versus those that are even blah. Like, I'm not even talking bad. Like, learn to distinguish the difference between, oh, I love the way my kitchen makes me feel, versus, oh, this living room, there's just something about it doesn't feel bad, but it just doesn't feel right. So having mindfulness so that you'll be able to know what rooms you can actually put some effort into if you wish, to improve the energetics of that space. But you can do it through physical means of being really mindful of the fabrics that are chosen. I do baby readings as well, and I one time had a baby that was requesting an incredibly soft blanket for its arrival. So I know that textiles, while we always think we always want to softly envelop our babies when they come out, like it's an actual real thing for them. It's very important. It kind of keeps their energy systems like running in zen, so we have to be mindful of the fabrics that we choose, be mindful of the noise in the space. And some babies, and this is not to say that babies want a complete sterile environment, and like please don't peg me on that. We really want to be able to get in tune with what our babies like. And that's really the most important part, that when we're in tune, we can notice what fabrics they like, what kind of lighting feels good for them, what are the sounds, maybe there's certain rooms that just seem to really soothe them. So we can do things very physically in that way. And then if you want to go a couple steps further, you can do things like getting a smudge stick, and you could simply just set an intention or say a prayer for your home, open the windows so that negative energy has a way to get out. You can light that and just take it room to room and just ask that something as simple as, I clear this space in the name of having a happy, healthy family, and ask for any and all angels to assist me in clearing out negative energy. And that's it. That's all you need to do. It can be really, really easy.
Okay.
Yeah, and people will use crystals and oils, and there's all sorts of things, but those are just some really easy things that I think that are very practical. And then the smudge stick isn't a big deal. A lot of grocery stores carry those now. So
Okay, you said a sponge stick?
smudge.
Smudge stick. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. So
Made
is
of
that
sage. Mm-hmm.
okay? Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, all right. And it sounds like part of that too that you're saying is kind of trust your intuition in a sense. So if you get a feeling that something feels good or doesn't feel good, then pay attention to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, do you have any books or resources that you recommend for women if they're trying to help improve their energy?
It's funny. It's one of these things where you need to follow the breadcrumbs that show up for you.
Hmm.
I like the books that I read in my early 20s, like they wouldn't serve me the same way they serve me now as I'm like
Right.
getting into motherhood. And it's really important that you honor those nudges. Even if you think they feel kind of silly, like Google searches, like, they can take you down a rabbit hole, and you might just end up on the very right, most perfect website with a book on it. So I can't say that there's like any one specific. It's just a matter of finding things that feel really good. And, just like with all professions, there are really great energy workers and healers, and then there are bad ones. So that's why you want to be super in tune and use your intuition and your heart to know which one is right for me. And I think that the really beautiful part is that you don't have to study this stuff. You don't have to have textbook knowledge about energy and the quantum physics behind it and all this stuff for it to be effective. Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. Just follow your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Every woman's different. She's in a different place than the next woman beside her. Just allow yourself to pick the ones that feel right for you.
Gotcha. And you have that intuition and that power within yourself to do that.
Every single person does. Everybody does.
Yeah, I think a lot of women don't believe that they do.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that I want women to feel empowered, because they do. Everybody, it's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, like, she's trying to get home, and that's what we're all trying to do. And it's the matter of we get home because we can follow that intuition. No one knows anything more than you do for yourself and your baby. We need to think about people as like consultants in our life, and we need to take the information they give us and study it and really compare it up against with, okay, well, what do I think I need? What do I think is the next step? And then using that information to keep propelling and moving forward.
Got it. Okay. So, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your work?
Hands down, when I get like those super chilling emails of women that are like, oh my God, I just had this crazy intense experience. Nobody will believe it but you. And then they like will write down like 4 paragraphs of what has happened in their energy clearing session. And it's really those like goosebumpy emails that I love the most. And that for me is like the highest high I could possibly get from working with other moms, when they find their pieces of them and they're celebrating. And sometimes they're not even sure. They're like, this happened. What is it? I'm like, you just landed on something that was so huge, and they don't
Right.
even yet recognize. So I love to see that self-empowerment happening. So amazing.
And you work with moms at what point? Like during pregnancy or after pregnant? Like at what point do you work with moms?
So the main answer is women will benefit from my work the most when they're about a year out from having their baby.
Huh.
There's something energetically that happens around that 1 year mark of that first birthday where mom seems to kind of have a little more separation from child. And that allows her to really kind of step into the finding more of herself because her resources aren't so tied up in holding and nurture. I mean, we constantly are nurturing our babies, like, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
but
Right.
there's this energetic shift that seems to be happening around that 1 year mark. It happened for me and it's happened for some other moms. So I'm pretty confident to say that once you get around that 1 year mark, there's some time for you, there's some space for you, both in your head and your heart. That's when a lot of benefit can happen. My other work as a medium is that I do baby readings for moms who their baby didn't come full earth side. So for moms that have had a loss,
Hmm.
I can work with them when they're kind of going through that grieving process or even later, like whenever they're ready for it. But so I do also work with women that are not currently with child or in the postpartum period of life.
Okay. Got it. Now, what is the most frustrating part of your work?
It's probably the waiting, right? Like I wait for those emails. I'm waiting for the change because I know it's coming. And sometimes it's like Christmas Eve waiting for Santa, and you just know that something amazing is going to unfold for them, and you don't know what it is, but that magic always unfolds, and it's just so fun to witness.
Okay. So, just last couple questions. What are you really, really passionate about when it comes to working with women? I mean, you talked about a few things, but is there that one thing that really just gets you going?
It's being their own power, hands down. I hate seeing women give their power up to people around them, whether it's a professional team that they've hired or if it's family or, in a situation where they're depending on people for answers. I want women to realize that the answers are within them. We use other people to help us get there, but the answers are always within ourselves.
Hmm. That is very true. I agree with that. Now, how have your personal experiences, you said you're a mom, how has that influenced your work?
Majorly. So right around the time when my little guy turned a year old. Now I was an energy healer professionally before I was pregnant. So I had a different view of pregnancy in full disclosure. But when he turned about a year old, I started hitting this wall and I was like, I need something. I need something. I don't know what it is. I started having experiences where like in 2 days, I hit my hands 4 different times. Like once I crushed it in my garage, like really strange incidences. I didn't feel like I was in my body. I felt detached. I was like, what is going on? But what I figured out was that I had a huge backlog of energy. Even though I was an extremely mindful person about my energy as a healer and someone in the profession, I didn't realize that like I had this big old full container that I needed to deal with. And so that experience took me about 16 months to work through, working on myself very vigorously and also with another professional healer. But what came out of that is the energy process that I now share with other moms. So my life and my work are so intertwined, and the energy work, the protocol that I have, I use it. Like I use it as maintenance. I am not like a one and done kind of girl. So being a mom has informed so much of who I am and where this work is going.
Okay. So, do you mind giving us like a little bit of an overview? Obviously, you don't have to give away all the details, but what is an overview of the protocol that you use with women?
Sure. So there are, I think it's about 7 steps if I were to nail it out. But here, the very first one is that we call in our own energy and give back what isn't ours. So we collect energy all the time from all sorts of people and all sorts of places. It's not ours, right? Like how many times do you feel bad about something that happened, but then you're like, oh, this isn't even mine to worry about, right?
Right.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We give that back. And then we call in what's ours because it's scattered everywhere. And gosh darn it, we deserve to have all of our full selves with us. And so that's the really big, important first step. After we do that, we do some grounding and we go down to the center of the earth and we get some healing from that, which is always amazing. And then we go to the furthest edges of the universe for expansion. And that's one of the cool things about this protocol is most people, energy healers out there, are not doing both. So you might find a meditation that focuses on expanding your energy and going out, further and allowing yourself to be more who you are, but there's not the counter. So in yoga, you know how we have the stretch and the counter stretch?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that in the energy practice. Like we go down, we ground, and then we expand. So it's a beautiful like yin and yang. I love that.
Got it.
And then we do some chakra healing. And then there is a point where I lead you to take the stuff that you have that's bothering you and bring it up for some energetic healing. And I walk you through it. It's very easy, but it's something that, my list of things is going to be so different than yours, Nicole. And that'll be so different than, Joe Schmo's wife down the street.
Right.
So it becomes very personal. It's a very generic protocol, but boy, does it get personal because we are bringing up our own stuff.
Okay. Well, that, it's, I just sit here listening to you talk, and I feel like what you're saying, I'm kind of going back to, is just really not like as out there as people think. And we probably should be open to different sorts of ways of kind of helping and healing ourselves. And it doesn't have to be one way versus another. Many things can work together to help you be your best version of yourself.
Amen. That's it. It's absolutely it. Yep.
So and what is the one piece of advice, if you had to narrow it down to one piece of advice that you would give to expectant moms?
One piece, I would say to consult your own heart above all else and use everything as pieces of information for consideration. So that at the end of the day, you're making decisions from your own heart that are made in a way that feels really good and aligned for you and your family. We don't want to make decisions that are made out of fear because we're not confident in what they're saying. But when we go back to our heart, we can deal with hard things with our heart. And that's the beauty of using the heart. Like we can use it to consult for small stuff and we can use it for big stuff. And we can get through life's biggest worries and challenges by getting to our heart. And that's kind of like where the decision making should be happening. Everything else is just information for consideration in my mind.
Okay, got it. So where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about you and what you do?
You can find me at my website, Nicole Karon, KARON.com. And there you can even grab a free copy of the process we just talked about and just discussed.
Okay.
You can get a PDF, so you can chew on that, you can read it, try it out. That's available on there too if you'd like to take that.
Awesome. And we will link to that in the show notes, everybody. So thank you so much for being here. This is a really very interesting, informative conversation. I know a little bit out there, but I think some really helpful and useful information when you sit back and really sit with it.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate it. It was great to be here.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care. I'll talk to you later. So what do you think? I thought that was a really great episode with lots of useful information. So after every episode, I do something called Nicole's Notes, where I talk about my top 3 or 4 takeaways whenever I have a guest on. So let me give you my notes for today's episode. Number 1, pregnancy and motherhood will change more than just your body. It changes who you are. And we don't address that well or even at all in traditional medical care, but I want you to be aware that change and that shift is coming. So find a way to reconcile that for yourself. Every woman is going to deal with it a little bit differently, but know that you are going to experience changes that are deeper than just a physical change. Number 2, and I really like this one, avoid negative energy during pregnancy. One thing Nicole talked about that I thought was very insightful is that pregnant women can often be a trigger for people laying their bad energy onto you. And that can come out in the form of unsolicited advice, commentary about what you're doing, where people are kind of projecting their negative energy and experiences onto you as a pregnant woman. Don't be afraid to put a shield up. Block that stuff out. Avoid that negative energy. Figure out a way to keep that negative energy from invading your space and your baby's space. We know that stress has a negative influence on pregnancy, and this negative energy can kind of increase your stress. So I think it's important that you really block and avoid that negative energy using some of the techniques that Nicole talked about. Number 3, you want to learn how to be in tune with your intuition and really trusting yourself. That's not something that's just important during pregnancy. It's really important throughout your life. It takes time to develop that skill. It's something that I feel like I'm getting better at and feeling much more comfortable with now. I call it my inner guidance from God. You may call it spiritual guidance or guidance from the universe or whatever you want to call it. But being in tune with your intuition and learning how to trust yourself will serve you well throughout your pregnancy and throughout your life. It's a skill and it takes time to develop because there's a lot of noisy chatter in our heads that isn't necessarily helpful. But when you can get quiet and really focus and listen to your inner voice, again, it's something you will not regret and it will help you throughout your life. Meditation, again, is a big thing to help you with that. And then number 4 is I am about research and science for sure. I did a 2-year research fellowship. I always try to present information that's backed by research and science, but not everything can be explained by traditional research and science. We just don't necessarily have the tools available to capture the meaning and importance of some of these things in that, again, woo-woo space. But I want you to know that there is room for both to exist, where you can believe in research and science and pull some of those things that we can't quite quantify with research and science. You can marry those things together in your life. And I think actually that's the best way to approach it. I see some people who are on both extremes where they're like, I just believe in research and science. If you can't, point to a study, then I'm not going to believe it. And then I see people on the other side who are like, well, I'm not going to believe anything about research and science because it doesn't incorporate some of these other principles that are important to me. But Nicole talked about how there is room for both. You can do things like she does, like this energy work, and go see a psychiatrist or a therapist or a counselor or be on medication. So you can find a way to marry those things in your life in a way that works for you. There is room for both. There needs to be room for both to exist in your life, I think, for you to be healthy and thriving. All right, so that's it for this episode. Let me know what you think in the All About Pregnancy and Birth podcast community Facebook group. If you're not already a member, just search for it on Facebook and ask to join, or click the link in the show notes to join. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast in iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, I'd appreciate you leaving an honest review in iTunes. It helps other women find the show. Also, I will leave you a shout out on a future episode. And don't forget about the meditation guide. That's ncrcoaching.com/meditate. I believe everyone should have meditation as a regular part of their life in order to stay healthy. So grab that free guide. The link is in the show notes there. And as I said, meditation or mindset is that first lesson in the birth preparation course. If you want to learn more about what's in my online childbirth education class, it's awesome. You can go to ncrcoaching.com/enroll. Now, next week on the podcast, I am talking about your due date. There is so much confusion about due date, so I hope to clear all of that up next week. So come on back next week, and until then, I wish you a healthy and happy pregnancy and birth. Today's episode is brought to you by Women's Wellness Coaching by Dr. Nicole Karon. Head to ncrcoaching.com to check out my free 1-hour mini course on how to make your birth plan, as well as my comprehensive online childbirth education class, the Birth Preparation Course. With over 8 hours of content and a private course community, the Birth Preparation Course will leave you knowledgeable, prepared, confident, and empowered going into your birth. Head to ncrcoaching.com to learn more.